Have you ever finished an entire bag of snacks and barely remember eating it? Or maybe you open the fridge when you're not actually hungry. But somehow, food feels like the only thing that might help. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of us don't eat because our body needs food. We eat because our nervous system is trying to regulate emotion. For example, stress, loneliness, boredom, even exhaustion. In other words, what looks like a food problem is often a brain and body regulation problem. So today, let's explore the art of mindful eating for real wellness. Not the cliché advice like, just eat slowly. Instead, we'll explore why emotional eating happens in the brain, how modern environments hijack our appetite, and simple practices that help your body reconnect with its natural signals. Because mindful eating isn't about discipline, it's about rebuilding the relationship between your brain, body, and food. Welcome to our channel. This is a space where psychology, neuroscience, behavior science, and design come together to support mental well-being, resilience, and human flourishing. Let's get started. Why we eat when we're not hungry. Let's begin with something important. Your brain was never designed for the modern food environment. For most of human history, food was scarce and uncertain. So our brain evolved powerful survival mechanisms to encourage eating whenever energy was available. One key system involved is the dopamine reward system. When we eat calorie-rich food, especially sugar, salt, and fat, the brain releases dopamine. Dopamine doesn't simply create pleasure, it creates motivation and learning. Your brain essentially says, remember this food, find it again. Now combine that with modern food design. Ultra-processed foods are engineered to hit what scientists call the bliss point, the perfect combination of sweetness, fat, and salt that maximizes reward signals in the brain. Which means emotional eating isn't a sign of weakness. It's actually a predictable neurological response. And when stress enters the picture, things become even more complicated. Stress, cortisol, and emotional eating. When you're stressed, your body releases cortisol. Cortisol prepares the body for survival, but it also increases appetite, particularly for high-energy foods. Why? Because your brain assumes you might need fuel for danger, even if the danger is actually because of work pressure, emotional overwhelm, lack of sleep, or constant digital stimulation. Research in behavioral neuroscience shows that when stress stays elevated for long periods, the brain begins to prefer quick energy foods. This is why after a long stressful day, your body doesn't crave broccoli. It craves comfort food. Your brain isn't trying to sabotage you. It's trying to self-regulate. But food is only one possible way to regulate the nervous system, and that's where mindful eating becomes powerful. Mindful eating is not about eating slowly. Many people misunderstand mindful eating. They think it simply means chewing slowly or paying attention to food. But the deeper idea is this. Mindful eating is about restoring communication between the brain and the body. Because modern life constantly disrupts those signals. Think about how many meals today happen while we are scrolling on our phone, watching TV, answering emails, or rushing between tasks. When the brain is distracted, it doesn't fully register the eating experience. This affects something called satiety signaling. Your body actually needs about 15 to 20 minutes to send fullness signals from the gut to the brain. But if you're eating quickly and distractedly, those signals arrive too late, which is why many people feel full after they stop eating, not during the meal. Mindful eating simply restores the conditions that allow those signals to work again. But there's another layer that is often ignored, the emotional layer. The emotional roots of eating. Many emotional eating episodes follow a simple psychological pattern. First, an uncomfortable emotion appears, such as stress, loneliness, anxiety, boredom. Then, the brain searches for quick relief. Food works well because it activates the reward system quickly. But here's the key insight. Often, it's not the food we actually need. It's regulation. Sometimes we just need rest, connection, stimulation, or simply a pause. Mindful eating invites us to ask a simple but powerful question before eating. What does my body actually need right now? Sometimes the answer will still be food, and that's completely fine. But sometimes the answer might be something else, and this small moment of awareness can change everything. 5 practical mindful eating practices. Let's move from theory to practice. Here are 5 simple ways to begin mindful eating without turning meals into a rigid ritual. Practice 1. The pause. Before eating, pause for just 10 seconds. Take one slow breath, then ask yourself 2 questions. Am I physically hungry or emotionally activated? You're not judging yourself. You're simply becoming aware. This brief pause helps shift the brain from automatic behavior to intentional choice. Practice 2. Engage your senses. Your brain experiences food through multiple sensory systems. Taste is only one part. Vision, smell, texture, and temperature all influence satiety and satisfaction. Before taking the first bite, briefly notice the color, the aroma, the texture. This activates sensory processing areas in the brain and increases the feeling of satisfaction during the meal. Interestingly, studies show that when people are more aware of sensory qualities, they often eat less but feel more satisfied. Practice 3. The halfway check-in. Halfway through your meal, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, how hungry am I now? Not, should I stop? Just notice. This reconnects you with internal satiety signals. Sometimes you'll continue eating. Sometimes you'll realize you're already comfortable. The goal isn't control. The goal is awareness. Practice 4. Awareness beyond the food. At some point during the meal, expand your awareness slightly. Think about where this food came from, the people, the process, the environment, and then gently shift inward. What is this food doing for my body right now? Fueling, repairing, supporting. This isn't about being overly reflective. It's about reconnecting food with something deeper than habit, with meaning. Practice 5. The moment of enough. Somewhere in the meal, there's a quiet signal, subtle, easy to miss. A moment where your body says, "This is enough." Not full, not uncomfortable, just enough. Mindful eating is simply learning to hear that moment again. Designing an environment for mindful eating. Behavioral science tells us something very important. Most behavior is shaped by environment, not willpower. If your environment constantly triggers mindless eating, mindful eating becomes difficult. Here are 3 subtle environmental design changes that can help. First, create a dedicated eating space. Even if it's just one corner of a table, eating in the same place trains the brain to associate that space with nourishment rather than distraction. Second, reduce digital distractions during meals. Screens disconnect the brain from bodily signals. Even one meal per day without screens can significantly increase awareness. Third, keep highly tempting foods slightly less visible. This isn't about restriction, it's about reducing constant cognitive temptation. Our brain is extremely sensitive to visual food cues. Small environmental adjustments often work better than sheer willpower. A different relationship with food. Mindful eating ultimately isn't about eating perfectly. It's about shifting the relationship between food, emotion, and awareness. Food can still be pleasurable. Comfort food can still exist. But instead of food becoming the only tool for emotional regulation, it becomes just one part of a larger system of care. When we reconnect with our body signals, something interesting happens. Eating becomes calmer. Cravings become less overwhelming. And food gradually returns to its original role, nourishment, not emotional escape. Because mindful eating is not about control, it's about connection. And when you reconnect with your body, food stops being something you escape into and becomes something that truly nourishes you. Reflection. Next time you reach for food, try something simple. Pause, take one breath, and ask, what does my body truly need right now? Sometimes the answer will be food. Sometimes it might be rest, movement, or connection. But that small moment of awareness is where mindful eating begins. And over time, those small moments can completely reshape your relationship with food. When that relationship changes, your health, energy, and well-being often begin to follow naturally. If you found this helpful, subscribe for more conversations on psychology, neuroscience, design, and human flourishing. Because our environment, habits, and mind are deeply connected. And when we learn to design them consciously, well-being becomes something we can actively cultivate. I'll see you next time.